Welcome back to the Gamer's Garden, and this time we're looking at a 16-bit co-op cult classic. Now, during the playground wars of the 16-bit generation, I had a Sega Mega Drive and my best friend had a Super Nintendo, so we got to enjoy the best of both worlds, and two-player games were naturally among our favourites. Streets of Rage 2 and Alien Storm were normally plugged into my Mega Drive, mixed in with a bit of Mega Bomberman when we wanted something other than a scrolling beat-em-up. At my friend's house we played Super Mario Kart and Street Racer to get more competitive, but the game we played probably more than any other during these years was the co-op classic Zombies Ate My Neighbours, or Zombies as we knew it in the UK, the subject of this cult classic video. By the late 80s, LucasArts had become known for excellent point-and-click adventure games that would be a staple of theirs for the next decade and a half. It was at this time, still operating out at the Skywalker Ranch, that a young freelance comic artist, Michael Ebert, joined them with his first credit for game art coming on the 1988 NES port of Maniac Mansion. After further contributions to the art and successful LucasArts games like Secret of Monkey Island and Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, and proving his design credentials on Empire Strikes Back for the NES, Ebert got his big break as the project lead for Zombies Ate My Neighbours, an original title released in the US in '93 that evolved from an in-house technical demo he had produced to try out a new game engine. LucasArts were releasing massive games, including many licensed ones by this time, so Zombies was very much a B-grade side project based on this new IP. It was a top-down co-op shooter, building on the solid gameplay of other popular games at the time like Smash TV and Alien Breed, but the game's USP is in its parodying of the B-movie horror and monster genre conventions. And this tongue-in-cheek approach to many classic monster myths and legends genuinely felt quite fresh at the time. It had a rich and colourful appeal that actually hid quite a tough game. The gameplay in Zombies is pretty straightforward. In single or two-player co-op, collect weapons, power-ups, explore the B-movie themed levels, save up to 10 neighbours, and go through the exit door that appears. Neighbours will die during your playthrough if a monster gets them first, and it's the number you save that carry over into the next level. This brings a risk-reward element, where saving more neighbours will likely require using more weapons and items, and make you face off with more enemies, but it gives you more room to play with later if you take more neighbours with you into the tougher levels later in the game. Ebert himself wanted to emphasise this mechanic of resource management, and it's something that became synonymous with the survival horror genre, although there's only passing links that you can really make between this and games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill that would follow in the next generation of consoles. There's still a mean streak that runs through this though, and it's a seemingly approachable game that's genuinely difficult after the first handful of levels. Having two players helps to a degree, but even then it introduces another balancing act, as the number of weapons and items available to pick up remains the same. You really have to think about your strategy to get through the levels, and however you play it, you're going to have a pretty tough time. However difficult you find Zombies though, what keeps you playing is the fantastic production design. Everything about this game's level design, graphics and sound epitomises what is so timeless about the 16-bit style. Sprites and animations are full of character, with all the signature horror monsters and suburban stereotypes present. The graphics and character design really drive the wit and parody in Zombies. The miserable teachers are worth far fewer points than the smiling blonde cheerleaders. Barbecue guys are actually worth less than their food, and neighbours can turn into werewolves if you're not quick enough. What's probably better than the fantastic graphics is the infamous soundtrack, created by musician Joe McDermott, who scored a handful of games in the mid-90s. He was given free rein and drew upon the 50s sci-fi films to create a game soundtrack that genuinely was like anything else. A notable achievement here was how effective the Mega Drive port was in retaining the signature soundtrack. Of course, Sega's console had notably inferior sound hardware when compared to the Sony-powered SNES audio, but the Mega Drive port has a character all of its own, and the same compositions really do sound good on that console. Sadly, I feel that the Mega Drive port does fall down in the visuals though. The lower range of colours really doesn't do the atmosphere of Zombies much justice, and the developers didn't redraw the graphics for the increased horizontal resolution of the console. This means everything has a squashed appearance and kind of looks murkier. One bonus is that the sidebar gives you a permanent radar, so that the weapons and the item readout doesn't interfere with your view. However, I'd still say the SNES is the best way to play Zombies though, mainly due to the gorgeous colour scheme. Perhaps it's nostalgia speaking, but it's in this that I feel Zombies is a pretty timeless game. Its visuals and sound are very representative of what made 16-bit games so great, and its quirky appeal and unique production design still make it feel fresh and full of character. Horror comedy isn't something that's covered much in video games, but Zombies is a great example of what you can do with the right sense of humour and a genuine passion for your source material. Although Zombies was a very successful game when it released, lightning wouldn't strike twice, and toward the end of '94, a sequel, Ghoul Patrol, would release on the SNES to significantly less acclaim and success, having its Mega Drive port cut during production. Michael Ebert and his team didn't work on this lackluster follow-up, instead using his Zombies engine to produce Metal Warriors for the SNES in '95, a game often misassociated as being part of the Assault Suit series. Metal Warriors itself is notable for being a highly convincing Western take on the Japanese mech genre, and while technically very impressive, it came out a bit too late to have much fanfare, with many gamers having moved on to the Sony PlayStation and Sega Saturn by now. Zombies did get a sort of a spiritual successor in this generation though, with Herc's Adventures in '97 on PlayStation and Saturn, made by Ebert and some of the Zombies team. This is an awesome game. More action RPG in its makeup, and sadly is very difficult and expensive to get hold of now. My same friend who I played Zombies for so many hours with actually got this on PlayStation at the time. We had no idea how closely linked the two games were, and it's only something I learnt much later, long after I could have easily got the game myself. I wish we had kept it so I could play this absolute gem again now. Ebert has continued to have a successful career, notably as a designer on the Skylander series and is currently at Blizzard Entertainment. Zombies has become a true cult classic since its release, and it's still very popular with gamers who played it then. Those kinds of co-op shooters would morph into other genres in the first 2-bit generation, so Zombies still stands out by itself, all these years later. It's fun, it's funny, it's hard as nails, but most of all, it's one of a kind. Thank you for watching another of my cult classics, and please let me know if you've played Zombies in the comments. Michael Ebert had a short but enviable resume of games from the mid-90s, so let me know if you enjoyed them too. And until the next time, happy gaming.